So hello everybody and welcome to Kaju Samyuzong Edinburgh. Welcome to the people in the room. It's lovely to see some faces, albeit masked ones, and welcome to the people online. The advantage of that is of course that you can be anywhere in the world, but for all intents and purposes you're with us here and now. So today we're going to look at the meaning of taking refuge. But before we do that, I think we should place our minds in the right frame of mind, you could say, and we'll start with the introductory prayers. And the first one is the refuge prayer, taking refuge with the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. So we can say it in English first, and then normally we say these prayers 3 times, and so we say it once in English, and then, or I can just say it in English, and then we can say it in the Tibetan phonetics twice, and then that makes 3. And then the prayer underneath it will say that once in English and once in the Tibetan phonetics. I think it's good to say the English first, because then when you say the phonetics, you know what's being said. So you say it with more conviction. So in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the noblest Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. Through the virtue generated by the practice of generosity and other virtues, may I achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. O Sanjay Chotang Suji Chonam La Changchu Bardu Dani Chapsunji Dagi Jinso Jipe Sanamji Dola Pencher Sanjay Ruparsho Sanjay Chotang Suji Chonamla Changchu Bardu Dani Chapsunji Dagi Jinso Jipe Sanamji Dola Penche Sanjay Parsho. And then we'll make the aspiration. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and from creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness that can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal, impartial compassion beyond worldly bias towards friends and enemies. O Semchen Tamche Dewatang Dewe Jutan Dempar Juchik Dunyal Tang Dunyal Chi Jutan Trawa Juchik Dunyal Mepe Dewa Tampa Tang Mindrawa Juchik Niring Chadang Tang Trawe Tang Yom Chempola Nepar Juchik. And then I'm going to say the prayer to the Guru. Wonderful, precious root Guru, residing on a lotus and moon seat above my head, I pray that you take me into your care with your vast kindness and give to me the siddhis of body, speech and mind. Paden Sawe Lama Rinpoche, Dagi Chiwo Pende de Shukla, Katrin Chembo Gone Jisungde, Kusun Tu Ching Udrup Satu So. Okay, so you can put your prayers on a nearby table or chair for now. So this is an introduction to taking refuge. To talk about the meaning of taking refuge, because obviously you need to know what it means if you're thinking of taking it. And I'm guessing that probably you may be considering taking refuge at some point in the future. It's not so easy right now because of the global pandemic, which although it's not as bad as it was, it's still restricting travel, so things are not that easy. But it's very good to be well prepared and to have given it plenty of thought, because it's important, isn't it? It's an important step. Maybe you've already done some study. Maybe you've been to some Buddhist teachings already. I would imagine so, otherwise how would you know that you want to take refuge? So you could have done that. Perhaps you've been putting them into practice as best you can. There's no reason to wait until you've taken refuge, but you can start out on the Buddhist path, whatever resonates with you and you think is a good teaching, you can follow it, And you can take refuge in your mind and in your heart, even if you haven't had the actual ceremony. The actual ceremony is actually very simple, and you would take it from a lama who you have some kind of relationship with, a teacher. But it has to be someone who's able to give refuge. And so, as I said before, that's not so easy in these times. But the important thing is that you're taking it in your heart and with your mind and your heart. So that you don't have to wait. That you can do now. Maybe you've already started to do that. If you're here attending this course, then presumably you have a good interest, a deep interest in it. And so the ceremony is more to formalize it, to make it kind of official. Not really official isn't really the right word, but to kind of put a seal on it, the seal of approval, if you like, the seal of a lama. But of course, before we take it, even before we can really take refuge in our heart with any degree of sincerity, we need to know about it. We need to know what it is. We also need to know what it isn't. Because sometimes people can have confused ideas about taking refuge. Maybe you heard stuff online or people talking, and that sometimes it can be confusing. So we need to be clear, isn't it? If we're going to, whatever we do in life, we need to be clear if we're going to make a commitment to do something. So looking at what it isn't, let's go through a few things of what it isn't. It's not like you're joining some sort of a club, some sort of exclusive club that is going to somehow set you apart from other people. Now I'm officially a Buddhist, and so I can't, associate with it, or whatever. I don't know. It can lead to confusion. So it's not like that. Actually, if anything, it would make you more inclusive of people because you're widening your view. So you're, instead of just focusing on you and your family and your close people, close friends, you're actually widening the view to incorporate all beings, to want to benefit all beings. That's what the Buddha taught, isn't it? So when you take refuge, the point is to follow in those teachings, which means enlarging your view and widening your view. So it's not just some sort of exclusive club. Also, you might know that when you take refuge, you get given a refuge name. So it's not about getting some fancy Tibetan name or Sanskrit name, again, that would sound a bit strange in your daily life. You don't really use it in your daily life. Your refuge name that you get given, it should be kind of like for you to have. It's not really for the world to particularly know about. Not that it's a great secret or anything, but it's not used in your daily life. So you can. It's different if you're taking robes. If you're getting ordained, then you do use your ordination name because it's a more of a commitment. But your refuge name is really, the time when you would use it would be, for example, if you're in a teaching or you're attending an empowerment, something like that. There can be occasions when you're asked to repeat your name, including, of course, in the refuge ceremony itself. So when you get given your name, and then the Lama giving the refuge will ask you to say your name, you would use your refuge name. But other than that kind of situation, you keep it more for yourself and not really, don't have to, people at work and stuff like that don't have to start, or your family don't have to call you by the refuge name. And then again, it's not just about participating in the ceremony and, you wanted to do it and then you kind of tick it off your bucket list, as it were. It's right, I've done that, that's it now. Taking refuge, I'm a Buddhist. It's not like that, really. It's not the end of something, it's the beginning of something. It's the beginning of your path. You may have already started studying and applying the teaching, so in that sense, because you've taken refuge in your heart and mind, you're already on the path. But it's kind of making it more formal, you could say. Because you're actually making commitment, I suppose it's the difference between, this is really not a good metaphor, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's the difference between being engaged or being married. So don't take this to heart, that's not really what it is at all, but I'm just trying to make some sort of difference between kind of having an informal practice and then formalizing it. Now forget about that terrible metaphor. Anyway, the point is, it's a beginning. It really is the beginning of your Buddhist practice, as long as you do it, of course. It's not like a magic thing that you do the ceremony and then that's it. It's up to you now. You're on the path. You have that wherewithal. You have that commitment. Whether you use it or not is entirely up to you. Better to be someone on the path who's following the teachings of the Buddha and not having taken refuge than to take refuge and then forget all about it and then not do the Buddha's teachings, not live your life as a Buddhist. Which one is going to be the more sincere? That's the main thing, isn't it? Ideally both. You would take the ceremony, you take it seriously, and then you would make the commitment to following the Buddhist path. So I think that's probably enough about what it isn't. So now I think we should look at why we take refuge, why, and with whom, or in what, in whom we take refuge, and also how we take refuge. So we have to think about this. Why do you want to take refuge? We should ask ourselves that. Why do we want to take refuge? So I'm not going to ask you to answer that, but you should ask yourself that. But one thing we can say, I think fairly generally, is that all beings want to be free from suffering and they want to be happy. I mean, is there anyone in this room that does not want to be happy and wants to be free from suffering? No, so nobody's hand's gone up, so nor would I expect it to. So we can take that as pretty much as a given. And it's not only human beings, of course, animals and other life forms cannot take refuge. That's the difference, really, one of the differences. But all human beings would say, and all our life forms would want to be happy and avoid suffering as far as possible. And yet, everything that we've done so far in our lives hasn't led to that, has it? Otherwise we would be happy and we wouldn't be suffering. So whatever we've tried, we might have had some satisfaction. It's not to say we're never happy, we never have some joy in our life. Of course we do, but it doesn't last, because it's not lasting happiness. It's not true happiness. It's kind of transitory. So, for example, with our families, if we have a loving relationship, if we're lucky in that way, then that would bring us some happiness. But another person can't make us happy. You could be in a good relationship and yet not not happy or not very happy, you're still suffering. Because very often, if we have got the man or woman of our dreams, that comes with all sorts of baggage, doesn't it? Because then people get possessive or they get jealous. There's lots of downsides as well as the upside, isn't it? So, and that's not because of the love side, it's because of the attachment. And that's what we need to work on. But that's part of the Buddhist path. If our loving family could make us happy, they probably would. Why wouldn't they? Just as we would want to make our children happy or our loved ones happy if we could. But it's not possible, because everybody has to take responsibility for their own state of mind. You know, if the Buddha could have made everybody happy by waving his magic wand, don't you think he would have done that? Of course he would have done that. If an enlightened being can't make us happy, and it's us that has to make us happy. But an enlightened being like the Buddha can show us the way. It's still up to us to travel the way. There's nobody else is going to be able to do that. Otherwise they would. And also, you know, it's like, even if you ask them, it would be like asking somebody the way who's never been somewhere, like asking directions of someone who's never traveled that path. So even if they would want to make you happy, or you would want to make them happy, you can't. You can make their lives somewhat more enjoyable and try, you know, to give them a good situation, of course, and we should do that. But ultimately, it's our own responsibility. So then also, you know, you might think, well, we put a lot of effort into our jobs, our careers, you know, our study, our careers, our the work that we do. We might have an excellent job which we've worked really hard for, a really good career. We might have respect for a lot of people and have exactly the right position that we wanted. But does it make us fully happy? Again, it's a mixed bag, isn't it? Sometimes everything is going smoothly and you do have some satisfaction. But equally, it could be a cause of stress and anxiety and problems. You know, when people come and talk to me about their problems, which sometimes they do, I think the work-related problems are probably one of the most frequent. Yeah, it's quite often that people have got problems in that area, even though they might have the job of their dreams, let alone if they're in a job they don't like. So all I'm saying is that whatever satisfaction we get from our jobs, of course that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't expect it to give you full, lasting happiness. It's not. You're not going to find it in that place. If you could, that means everyone with a good job would be happy, or everyone with a nice family would be happy, and clearly they're not. Also, you know, some people look for happiness in getting a really nice house or possessions, you know, a really beautiful car, whatever. You know, I mean, people spend a lot of time and energy acquiring these things, don't we? We do. Clothes, designer clothes, or whatever, or just. But then again, you know, it might bring us some happiness for a short time, but it never lasts, does it? Because then there's always the newer clothes or the newest model car or something else that's come along that makes us slightly dissatisfied with what we already have. And so it's like, there's a saying that it's like trying to quench your thirst by drinking seawater. It just makes you want more and more. It doesn't ever fulfill your wishes, your desires, because that's what it comes down to. It's your desire that can't be fulfilled. So all of these things, possessions, we can enjoy them. That's not to say you shouldn't have them, but just don't expect too much of them. Don't expect what they can't give you. They cannot give you lasting happiness, and they can be a cause of problems. Like you might have the car of your dreams or something, and then you crash it, or somebody damages it, or somebody steals it, and so then it becomes a big problem and a burden. So all of these things that we spend a lot of time and energy on acquiring, or getting the person that we want, or the job that we want, or all of these things. And that's not to say we shouldn't have these things, but it's the attachment, it's the thinking that they're going to provide lasting happiness. That's where the problem is. It's not, they can't give us that, in other words. And so then we have to think, what can us give? How can we be happy? How can we be free from suffering? And that's where the Buddha Dharma comes in. So we need to look at how things really are, not what we're being peddled by the people who are trying to sell us cars and houses and whatever it might be, because they'll tell you anything. They want to sell their whatever it is. So, they'll if you wear this perfume, you'll have all these people flocking around you. I mean, it's crazy, really, isn't it? But that's what we get fed, and that's what we who are gullible, that's how we get caught up in it all. Consumer society, we're just consumers in that case. So this is why when we're looking at the Buddha's teachings, the Four Noble Truths, I don't know if you've done any of the online courses, but the first one is Discovering Buddhism, and that was a 3-part course. So if you haven't attended it, I would suggest you do that, because it leads on from the very beginning, which is the Buddha's life story. And because of the Buddha's life story, it's not just about some historical being. His life story is an example to us of what we can do, how we can be, to fulfill our true potential. That's really the point of going into his life story. And then not only the Buddha's life story, but other great masters that have come after. Very inspirational. So we can do that. And then we can look at the 4 ways of turning the mind to Dharma, which again is online now. That's one result of the pandemic, is that all the teachings that I used to only give in person are now online. So you can watch them, and if you're going to do them in the way that is suggested, because really it's not just a question of watching them like a sort of TV program or something, but it's a question of engaging with them and studying with them, and because the idea is to test them. Is this true? Is it not true? If it is true, then move on to the next one. So give each one time. So the 4 preliminary foundations there, we look at the topic of precious human life, and then death and impermanence, and then karma, cause and effect, and then samsara, or the illusory nature of worldly life. So they're all really important topics to mull over and sit with, meditate on, and progress like that. Whether you've taken refuge or you haven't taken refuge, these are accessible. And when we really examine these topics, then we start to really develop the wish to be free from this kind of this suffering, this wrong way of seeing, this kind of deluded way of seeing that we know that all the things that we've done so far have not brought us any real lasting happiness. That doesn't mean to say we have to be miserable or anything like that. We're just looking at things realistically. That's really what I'm talking about here. And you can and should enjoy your life, and whatever good things and nice things come your way, enjoy them. Why not? What we're working on is the attachment and the deluded view that they can bring you any lasting happiness. That's what needs adjusting. So when you become more realistic about that, then it's not a problem. Why not enjoy them? Now, if we look at the Buddha's teachings, obviously the Buddha's taught countless teachings, because he didn't become enlightened and begin to give teachings just for the sake of giving teachings. The point was to benefit beings as much as he possibly could, because one of the main reasons that caused him to go through everything he went through is because he was born in a life of luxury. He was a prince, he lived in a palace, he had a wife and child, and a life of luxury and everything that money could buy. So his life was really a bowl of cherries, really, compared to most people. But when he did go outside of the palace, out of his curiosity, he wanted to see what was out there. And he saw for the first time, he saw all this kind of people suffering, animals suffering, somebody dying, somebody sick. He'd never seen any of that before. So it really hit him. It really went to his heart and awoke in him this great compassion, this, wow, he hadn't realized that it was so much suffering. And what was this? Did it have to be this way? Does it have to be all these people and beings are suffering? Or is there something he could do about it? Because for the first time, example, he saw people that were old and sick. So even then, he would have dawned on him that he too would get old or sick, and then he sees someone dying, and then that becomes obvious. So, and the way they were suffering because of that. So he wanted to explore that, but his motivation was really so that he could help other beings. So he felt that if he could get to the bottom a bit of, okay, so why are we suffering in this way? And is it possible to get out of it? And so that's what he did. He left the palace, he left his life of luxury, and he studied very deeply with all the great teachers that he could find. Of course, this was 2,500 years ago, so it would have been in a very kind of sophisticated civilization compared to the West, actually. There were some very good Indian Mahasiddhas, great teachers, so he would study with them. But then he kind of surpassed them, and he didn't really get to the root of the suffering. And so anyway, I'm not going to go through the entire life of the Buddha because it's in the other in Discovering Buddhism, but just to say that he spent many, many years studying himself and going through all sorts of austerities, trying, would it be better if he didn't eat? And, he tried really kind of mortifying the flesh, as we would say. And so he tried various things, and then eventually he sat under the Bodhi tree, and he'd sort of exhausted all of these things, and he thought, right, I'm not going to move from here until I've got to the root of it. Of course, by this time, he was a sage, he was very wise, and he had extraordinary samadhi, meditational abilities. So he was, very experienced. So he sat there, and throughout the course of the night, his realization kind of developed, and all the temptations or distractions that would have distracted most people, he managed to just put aside, cut through, and he remained completely focused. And in the dawn, he actually became fully realized. And by that I mean, because there's many stages of realization, but by this I mean fully omniscient. So fully realized his potential. So of course then he knew that it was possible. He knew what suffering was about. He knew what the roots of it were. He knew how to uproot those roots so that it wouldn't lead on to this life of suffering. And then he had to help others. He wanted to help others. But how could he do that when they wouldn't have understood? Or so maybe some people would have some inkling of it, but others would be completely, he couldn't just pour out everything that he himself had understood, that had taken him many years as well. So whoever he encountered, he would help them in whatever way was appropriate for them. He could see the level they were at. Because people are at different levels, aren't they? Not everyone's always, the same. Some people are much more educated or more evolved, you could say. Younger, older, there are many things to take into consideration. But because of his insight, he was able to see what would be appropriate for each person, and he would teach them that. He would give them that talk, and they would benefit from that, and then they would move on, and be able to progress accordingly. Consequently, there's thousands of teachings. So we don't have to do all the Buddha's teachings. We have to know what's appropriate for us, and we do need a teacher, but we also need to awaken our inner teacher as well, because we are very much our own teacher as well, if we're really kind of honest with ourselves. Then we're very, very fortunate that we have these examples of the Buddha's life and of the lives of those who have come after, with their teachings, their commentaries. There's a lot of Buddha Dharma out there, So that's up to us, we need a certain guidance about that, but we have it there. All these countless teachings, it's not that we have to learn them all, or even read them all, but you could summarize all of them into 3 very simple things. Well, simple but not easy, there's a difference. So the first one is this is just, we're talking about a nutshell here, the teachings of the Buddha in a nutshell. The first one is to refrain from doing what is harmful to ourselves and to others. It sounds easy, doesn't it? But can we honestly say that we don't harm others? Can we honestly say that we don't do what's harmful for ourselves sometimes? I think not. If we could, nobody would smoke, nobody would drink. These are just socially acceptable things that people do that are actually very harmful to yourself and to others. And yet they're done quite widely. Let alone more serious things that we still do. So we need to refrain from doing what is harmful to ourselves and to others. Again, people gamble. The gamble might be a big problem. They might gamble their house away, their lives away, their families end up suffering. Or if it's about drink, it's not just about having a social drink. It might start off by having a social drink, then it becomes a bit of a habit, then it becomes addiction, and then it becomes a massive problem for the person's health and also their loved ones, isn't it? Of course, if we have self-control, then we can just take one drink and no big deal. I'm not saying that it's 100% bad, but it's a slippery slope, and I've seen many people go down it. In fact, I think we can all probably identify with it. I know I can before I was a nut, So we need to be honest with ourselves about this. So refraining from doing what is harmful to oneself and others. But that's not enough, just not doing what's harmful. We also need to practice what is beneficial for ourselves and others. Otherwise, what a waste of our life if we just sort of don't do what's harmful, but we don't actually do anything that's helpful. then we're just wasting our precious human life then. We're not really using it. So, to practice, as far as we're able, what's good for us and what's good for others. And very often it's the same thing. Sometimes if we're not in maybe we're in a bit of a sad state, but we do something kind for someone else, that actually makes us feel happier as well. Have you ever had that happen? It's not that unusual, you focus on someone else, you just help them. It can be quite a small thing, make them a cup of tea or just give them the time of day. And then that kind of makes you feel better as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's all good. It's win-win, So you can start off with small things like that, practicing what is beneficial for oneself and for others. And now the third thing, now this is right, because I think the first two things, you could possibly say that about most philosophies or religions, would probably say to you, don't do what's harmful, do what's helpful, at least on that level. But the third one is to fully tame our mind. And that's, I think, much more a Buddhist principle. And maybe it exists in other religions, I don't know for sure, but for sure it's absolutely fundamental to Buddhism. Because if we don't tame our minds, if we don't have some control over our minds and get to know our minds, so to tame it, you have to get to know it. We don't know it. It's like, we don't even know our minds. So to fully tame our mind, if we don't do that, but then there's a 50-50 chance that we will carry on doing what's bad for us and not do what's good for us, because we're sort of guessing in a way. We're not fully switched on. So it's a bit kind of potluck. We might do something harmful, we might not. Because until we get to the root of why we do things that are harmful, or I need to identify also what is harmful. Sometimes they're very obvious, sometimes not so much. So these things, they sound simple, but it's not so easy to do. We need to have some sort of commitment and patience also, because we're in it for the long haul. It takes quite a while to build up a habit, but it takes even longer to get rid of a habit. Yeah? So anything negative that we've become habituated to, we need to park that, we need to get rid of that. But in order to really get rid of it, we need to understand it. And that's why we need to work on our mind, because when you have insight and understanding, a lot of the negative stuff just drops away. Because if you've seen something, if you've really seen it, if you've got some proper insight into it, you can't not see it after that. You've seen it. You've seen through something. So maybe it's a question more of seeing through rather than uprooting. It's more like, it was like that, but now you see that it's like that. So you can't pretend you don't know anymore, Maybe you could bury your head in the sand then, but it'd be harder, I think. So now I think we should look at who and what we take refuge in. So we've already spoken about the Buddha. So we take refuge in the Buddha because he has already realized his true Buddha nature. So he knows the way. Therefore, you would follow the directions of somebody that knows the way. We still have to travel the path ourselves, but you would follow the direction, you would be guided by those who have followed the way. So we look at the Buddha as the person as an example of a fully enlightened being, and that's our ultimate goal, isn't it? That's we want to become everything we can become for the sake of ourselves and also for the sake of others. So the Buddha, you could say, is the ultimate source of refuge, and he is all everything, actually. He's all of them. But then, if we look at, because he's realized the nature of all things, and because he gave all these teachings, and that brings us to the second thing, is the Dharma. So the Dharma, in this sense, of the Buddha's teachings, it is the Buddha's teachings. The Dharma, it means like the truth of how things really are. So because the Buddha had realized the truth of how things really are, he could then teach that on the appropriate level. You can't run before you can walk, so he had to give people what they were capable of understanding at any given time, and then they would progress from there. So the Dharma is the truth of how things are, that the Buddha taught with all his wisdom and motivated by his compassion, so that others can also, so that we can also liberate ourselves. Because as I said before, if the Buddha could have liberated everybody, he would have done that. But it's up to us. It's up to us to liberate ourselves. We're the ones that sort of have acquired the obscurations, the things that obscure our view, and we're the ones that need to clean through it or see through them. So nobody can do that for us, but the Buddha can show us the way. So therefore we take refuge in the Buddha, who had realized the nature of all things, and we take refuge in the Dharma, which is the Buddha's teachings that help us on the path. And then, so that means that the Dharma is our refuge as well. And then the third thing is the Sangha. So now the word Sangha, it means like the community. If we just use it in a general, the Buddhist community, you could say. But in this instance, we're talking about the noble Sangha, the noblest Sangha, who are the beings who have also reached liberation through following the Buddha's teachings and become fully enlightened as well. So those beings are the ones worthy of taking refuge. In other words, they've realized their true nature, so they've become the ultimate teachers. And altogether, we call all three of them, we call them the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. So that when you hear, often you'll hear the words, the three jewels, so that's what we mean by the three jewels, is the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. The Buddha epitomizes all of them. So if you only was going to take refuge in one, it would be the Buddha, because he is all of them. He is the Buddha, he is the Dharma, he is the Sangha. But, you know, if you look at it like that, but normally we think of the three jewels. Then you can also think of it as like the outer refuge and the inner refuge. So the outer refuge is the Buddha, the fully enlightened being, but sometimes he's likened to a teacher, the ultimate teacher, or a healer. Sometimes you hear the Buddha referred to as a healer because he heals us, or he gives us the healing that we can heal ourselves, but he gives us the medicine, if you like, and the medicine is kind of like the Dharma, what he taught. The Dharma is the path, the way, or to use the medical analogy, the medicine. But we need to take it. He can give us the medicine, but if we don't take it, then nothing happens. And then the Sangha, or the other realized disciples of the Buddha who already realized their Buddha nature. And so they are our guides. The others who have, sort of fully realized on the path. And that can be likened in the medical sense to our nurses, who can show us the way and help us on a more kind of personal level in our lives. But again, if we don't follow their instruction, the nurse's instruction, or take their medicine, then It doesn't work, does it? So it's up to us. It all boils down to us. But we have the means. They give us the means. Whether we use the means or not is entirely up to us. Which is great, because it means it's our responsibility. It's not anybody else's. So that's kind of like the outer, looking at it as the outer refuge, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. But if you look at what's called the inner refuge, that's our own pure Buddha nature that exists within us, that it is part of our intrinsic being. Of course, it's obscured by various confusions and deluded ideas, and what we call like the mind afflictions, like jealousy or pride or greed or any of the things that obstruct it, that we need to uproot or see through or get to the bottom of it, however you want to put it. So this is the work. This is the work we need to do. We need to clean the house before we can see through the windows or something like that. So that's what we need to do. And so the inner refuge is like our practice, what we actually do, the work we do on ourselves. So it's a practice of study, of reading or attending teachings, studying, contemplation, mulling things over in our mind, examining, using our intelligence, sharpening our intelligence. Otherwise, someone can tell you any old thing, you just be gullible. That's not much good, is it? We need to know how things are, not just because somebody has told us that. Even if we respect them, we still should test it and see for ourselves. Otherwise, whatever faith we may have is going to be very shaky if we've not really given it our full mind. And then with meditation it becomes, we kind of absorb it and it becomes into our heart, it becomes more experiential. So this is the practice of study, contemplation, meditation. This is what the Buddha did. It's the same. We have to do that also. But we have an advantage that he's already done it, we know it's possible, and we have the way, we have the map, we just need to follow the map in our own, in our own life. And then the inner Sangha are our teachers and also our friends, our spiritual friends who support us and help us on the path to liberation. So the people more directly involved in our life, as well as maybe the historical teachings and things like that, but people directly who we're on the path with, who maybe can help us along the way. So the spiritual teachers and friends who support us and help us. So that's kind of known as the inner refuge. Then we can look at how we take refuge. Okay, so we've had to look at who we take refuge in. Well, first of all, we looked at why we take refuge, didn't we? Then we looked at who and what we take refuge in. Now we can look at how we take refuge. So, for example, right now, our knowledge of and understanding that we have about the three jewels of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is maybe quite limited right now. Maybe we haven't done that much study at the moment. But we should at least know enough to feel confident that we're on the right path before we take refuge. We should at least know that. If we don't know that, then we're not ready. So we have to be very honest with ourselves. And if we're hesitant about it, if we're not sure, if we don't have that trust or that confidence, then we need to look into it further. Or dispel it if we really don't want to. But if we think, well, it's looking this way, but I feel like I need to know more, then know more. Look into it. There's no rush, It's important. So we need to read the teachings, study them, contemplate them, and also, if we look at the lives of the great masters, the lineage, for example, the lineage of the Kagyu Lamas, I say that because we were in the Kagyu lineage here, and there is one teaching online that I gave, and there's many that many other people have given, but I intend to go through that more after this. So, but there is also, I think after the Discovering Buddhism, it did touch on that, and then the daughter Dharma did start to talk about the lineage, so that's already there. And maybe we can go into some more detail because it's not just about learning history, it's about having a feeling for these beings of the past, these great beings who have become fully realized, because we can learn so much from them. And not only learn from them, but feel, inspiration from them. Well, we can only do that if we read about them and we understand how they lived, who they were. It doesn't matter that they're from 100 years ago or 5 minutes ago. That's really not important. The human beings don't change that much, just the outer trappings change. But these great beings, they're inspirational if we know about them. So the more we know, the deeper our feeling gets, and the more we understand, and the more sincere our genuine, authentic, when we do take refuge, because we're prepared. We put some effort into it. And it's like anything else, the more effort you put in, the more you get out. That's the same with anything, isn't it? And this is no different. And then when we have decided to take refuge, and when the right conditions occur, we have a sincere commitment to understand and to uphold the refuge vows, because there are vows that we take. So there's no point in taking a vow if you don't know what it is, or you have no intention of keeping it. Then you would be breaking it, and that would be really negative thing to do. That would not be a good thing to do. So you need to feel sure that what you're doing is the right thing. So the refuge vows, they're not so complicated, but they need to be done sincerely. So, for example, we shouldn't, once we've decided to take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, then we shouldn't mix it up with other things, and take refuge in worldly things, or put our expectation or hope into worldly other paths, because you have to decide, this is when to decide what you want to do. And so once you've decided on that path, then you should stick with that path and have full confidence in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. Develop it, of course. And then also the second one is that we shouldn't stray from the path of Dharma, but we should follow the Buddha's teachings. If we stray from the path of the Buddha's teachings, can we honestly call ourselves Buddhists? So we should know what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and then we should keep to that. And then the third one is we should not associate with harmful people who would be harmful for us and who would drag us down. But we should befriend Dharma companions and people who can help and support us on the path. Now that's not to say we should never associate with other people who aren't Buddhists or things like that. That's not a problem, but the people that you spend your time with, the people who are close to you and who you spend a lot of time with, unless we are strong in ourselves, we can get dragged into the wrong ways, isn't it? When we see this, you can get influenced by somebody who is, say, on drugs, or that's how it happens, isn't it? Or an alcoholic or something like that. So that's not to say we shouldn't try to help these people or whatever we should do. But we need to be kind of careful that we don't go down that path, because until we're strong in ourselves, we can get badly influenced, isn't it? So that's what that means. Doesn't mean to say you shouldn't help them. But first, we do need to help ourselves. Because until we're strong, we can't really help others that much. It would be like, say somebody's drowning, and as much as we might want to help them, if we can't swim, it's very limited what we can do, isn't it? So we need to focus on putting ourselves in a wise, considerate kindness, cultivate all of those things, and from that comes the strength and the knowledge, the wisdom, in that we can really help, be much more helpful to people and any kind of being. And meanwhile, we do the best we can, of course. It's not to say you shouldn't help people. Absolutely, we should help beings. But if we really want to make the most of it, we also need to help ourselves and get ourselves into a good state of mind, and then we can be much more helpful to others. And the most beneficial thing we can do for them is to help them along the path to self-liberation. So, the Buddhist teachings we already spoke about in the three very succinct ways of refraining from doing what's harmful, but practicing what's helpful, and fully taming the mind. So those are the three things that we need to keep in mind. Then also there's something called the three trainings. So the three trainings are to value and respect every symbol of the Buddha, such as the statues or pictures or any kind of visual representation. I mean, you might think, well, of course you would do that, but it's not necessarily the case. You know, I've seen Buddha statues used as a doorstop. I mean, that's just ignorance, isn't it? It's like somebody not knowing anything about Buddhism. If you would put a statue of the Buddha and use it to prop the door open. Because these days you can go into any old shop and buy a Buddha ornament. It's an ornament. It's not been blessed. It's not actually functioning as in the way it should do. And people think, oh, that's nice, I'll have one of that. I've seen them in people's toilets. You know? So that's not very respectful, is it? So we don't want to be like that. We should value and respect every symbol of the Buddha, not because it's a statue or because it's a painting, but because of who it represents. They're symbolic of who it represents. If we truly, totally respect the Buddha, the person with whom we've taken refuge, we could not revere somebody more. You know, he's the one that's helping us become everything that we can truly be. So we have to really revere the Buddha, which means any image of the Buddha we wouldn't treat disrespectfully or put it with the rubbish or something like that, you know, on the floor. And the same as with every text or every syllable of prayers, the Dharma prayers, the mantras, anything like that, any text teachings of the Buddhas that are printed, we should keep them well, you know, not just stick them in the magazine rack with all the newspapers or something, you know. We should put them on a higher level, on a special shelf, or, within reason. You don't have to be neurotic about it, but just be respectful of the Buddha's words, because that's what it symbolizes, is the Buddha's speech, the Buddha's teachings, what he gave to the world and continues to give to the world. So we treasure that because it's so precious. It's a means for us to become liberated. What could be more precious than that? And yet, in our present civilization, people would look at the value we would put on some jewelry, a diamond or something. You know, you would treat that carefully, wouldn't you? And yet, how is that going to help you in your life? It's not really, is it? So, and then the third one is to value every representation of the Sangha. So even like a snip of the robes, or the robes that the Sangha wear, should be treated with respect. I mean, if you are a Sangha, like a monk or a nun, I mean, I've seen them just thrown, in a hurry, and just try and at least fold them up and put them somewhere careful. If by accident you see somebody's dropped a robe, maybe you just pick it up and put it on the table or something, just to be conscious of it, because you respect the robes because of what they represent. It's not that this cloth is some special cloth or anything like that, but it's what it represents. It represents the Sangha, the noble Sangha. Not just ordinary monks and nuns, but the noble Sangha. So we respect those because of the person wearing it. We respect the drawings or paintings of the Buddha because of who it represents, and we respect the syllables or the texts because it represents the Buddha's teachings. Then there are precepts. So the precepts that we should keep in mind when we take refuge, there are 6 of those common precepts. And they are the first one is to keep the qualities of the 3 jewels in mind. Now, obviously, as you're going about your daily business, you'll be doing different things. It's not that you have to be kind of tight about it, but, to just have somewhere in your mind that why you're doing what you're doing, because that changes also the quality of what you're doing. So, for example, the second one, for example, is to offer to the Buddha the Dhamma Sangha when you're going about your daily business. So, for example, when you're eating. So, you've got a plate of food in front of you. So rather than sort of tucking in straight away, you make a mental offering to the Buddha. You don't have to necessarily make a physical offering, but in your mind, you have something good to eat. So you can just mentally offer to the Buddha the Dhamma, the Sangha. Some people do put a little bit aside on their plate, but that's not strictly necessary. But because everything happens in your mind, doesn't it? That's where you become enlightened or unenlightened, is in your mind. So when you really commit to following the Buddha's teachings, then you would want to. It's not that the Buddha needs your food. It's not, it's for you to develop these good qualities of generosity and respect. So you benefit from this because you're training yourself in a good way of being by keeping these precepts. There's also a prayer that you can say, there's in Tibetan there's a prayer, but there's an English translation somewhere, or you can just say it in your mind. It doesn't have to be that particular prayer. You can say in your mind, I offer to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the goodness of this food. You don't even have to say it out loud, and you certainly don't need to make a big show of it. Like you're sitting in a restaurant or somewhere, you don't have to, Buddha Dhamma, in front of everyone. You really don't have to make a big show. It's for you to say it. You can say it slightly quietly under your breath, or you can just say it in your mind. So you don't have to start behaving all weirdly, or But it's what's in your heart and mind. And I know I keep saying that because that is the most important thing. And anything that comes your way, you get somebody gives you, or you buy a nice new coat or something like that, you can mentally offer it to the Buddha. Buddha, the Dhamma, Sangha. It puts you in that frame of offering, of giving. This is a virtue to cultivate. Even you're not actually physically doing that, but in your mind you are. Or it could be something like a sunset. You see, it doesn't have to be a material thing. It's a beautiful sunset. You offer it to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. Anyway, that's just examples. You don't have to do all of those things. It's just something to bear in mind. And then the third one is that we can explain about the three jewels qualities to others who wish to know. So this is not a license to go preaching on Hyde Park Corner. The three jewels. This is not that. Somebody needs to be interested. If they're not interested, don't go there. If they are interested, then of course you can maybe start by saying, if we're honest with ourselves, well, I don't know that much, but what little I do know, I can say this. I think it's always good to start something like that, because otherwise you can be seen as preaching, or maybe you don't. They should know that we're all beginners on the path, aren't we? I've been on the path in this lifetime that I know about 30 years, but I still consider myself a beginner compared to where I'm going. So we have to be realistic. But maybe I know a bit more than I did 30 years ago, so hopefully I can help a little bit more. Anyway, if people are genuinely interested, we can tell them what we know, and hopefully they will be inspired enough to look into it for themselves. Or we can tell them about a teacher that we know that they can point them in the right direction, or a place that they might be able to benefit from. So just like that, Well, I've not been there, but I've heard that it's this way, sort of thing, So yeah, we can do that. And also, that when we talk about this kind of thing, I think it's good not to be too casual, not mixing it up with just any old stuff that you're talking about and then a bit of that drop. I think you should make a time to sit down and dedicate that time and say, okay, what do you want to know about that? Well, I'm a bit busy now because I'm baking a cake or whatever, but let's talk about it afterwards when we've got time. And you make a time, you don't just casually start talking about the Buddha while you're busy doing something else. Like anything that you would want to give time and attention to. Then the Refuge prayer, we recite the Refuge prayer, which we did at the beginning, and we should recite that every day. Several times a day. We can't say it too much, but at least 3 times a day, because that helps us to bear in mind. Bear them in mind. Then the 5th one is whenever we begin an activity, whatever it is, whether it's a work thing or baking a cake or whatever it is, but mundane activity, we can have the intention for it to be of benefit to all beings. Now, okay, let's take the example of making a cake. Now, this material cake that is only that big cannot be shared out between all beings. We know that. But we can have the intention, may it be in some way beneficial, to have that as a wish, to have that way we're kind of cultivating our own altruism, you could say, bodhicitta, altruism, and generosity. We have that wish, it's our mindset, that we're having a good mindset. And also, the power of mind is extraordinary. So the stronger our mindset is, the more effect it has. So whatever it is, when we begin our work, we begin our work for the day, may it benefit all beings. May it be of benefit. And then the 6th one is not to sort of joke about or trivialize or take the 3 jewels in vain. This is not a topic for making jokes about or trivializing. So if people want to know about it, then that's fine, you talk to them about it, but you give it the respect it deserves. You give them the respect it deserves. You don't sort of make it all sort of casual and maybe even disrespectful. I don't think we would want to do that, but we need to be aware that we don't mix it up with our usual banter. So those are the 6 common precepts that we should, bear in mind and do our best with. And then there's also something called, we can also follow the 5 golden rules, which is kind of, it's always good to bear in mind. So these are not to kill or harm life. Again, it's not just enough to not kill and harm life, but we should do what we can to protect it and nurture it where possible. So, for example, hopefully, we're not going to go out murdering anybody, but even a small insect, we should try not to, if we can avoid it. Of course, it's impossible to completely avoid, because every step we take on the grass is probably killing something, but we don't have the intention to kill them. So we wouldn't just mindlessly swat a fly, for example. If you don't want it in the house, then you have to get a jar and you put something in there, you take it out, but not to kill it. And where we can nurture life or help in some way, for example, sometimes you might be walking along the road and see there's a snail in the middle of the road and it's alive and it's at the moment, but that cars are going to come, so it doesn't take a moment to just put it on the side of the road. Or a frog or something like that that's easily, if you don't see it, then of course you can't do it. But or you might find a spider in the bath. You're about to have a shower. This happens to me quite a bit. I have to remove something out of the bath before I have a shower and put it outside. This is it's good for you. It's not just only good for the spider or whatever it is. It's good for you because it's developing good qualities in you. And then the second one is not to steal or to take things without permission even. Hopefully, you wouldn't be stealing, but you might think, oh, well, I'll just borrow that, then they won't mind. Well, you don't know for sure if they're going to mind or not. So that, we consider that's not good to do. If you've got permission, then fine. But don't to take things without asking. And again, the opposite of taking is giving, isn't it? So to practice generosity, where you can give. It doesn't have to be a material thing necessarily. It can be money, it can be clothes, but it can equally well be time. Everyone's time poor these days, so you give somebody the time of day or a smile, anything, It's when you cultivate that generous way of living your life, you also benefit from this. You become a generous person, that's a virtue. The third one is not to lie or to speak harshly or hurtfully, but to speak truthfully and kindly. And this is very common. Unless we watch our tongues, we can come out with some very hurtful stuff without thinking about it, So this is to train ourselves not to do that, and that by speech, that also includes things on the internet. This is what it's called social media, but I always call it anti-social media because every time I hear about it, it's always something anti-social and negative. I'm sure it's got its good side as well, but I don't even go there. But if you are going there, then you have to be careful what you say, just as you would in real life. And of course, there can be exceptions. We would want to tell the truth if we possibly can, but there could be some sort of something happen, like somebody comes through that door with a gun in their hand and is looking for Jackie, and Jackie's already gone out that door. And they say, well, where's Jackie? I'm going to get her. She went that way. I would tell a lie, but I might save your life. So it would be worth telling a lie in that case. So there might be some situation, a bit dramatic, that one, but could be something like that. It would be better to tell a lie in some circumstances, but with the motivation of helping. But generally speaking, you don't tell lies, you tell the truth. And then the fourth one is not to take drugs or intoxicants. Drugs, medicine's fine, you can take those kind of drugs. Now, if you're a lay person, there is, it's up to you. This is not a vow we're talking about here. We're talking about the golden rules. You can take a vow if you want to. You can take a vow not to drink alcohol, for example, because it can lead to all sorts of other things and make us having less control over a lot of other things. So it's not just about the alcohol in itself or the harm that might do us, but how it affects our minds, and then we might end up being more aggressive, and then we can get into a fight, and then something really bad can happen, for example. That's not uncommon. So we can take that as a vow, but here it's like a rule that we can just, if we can just want to have a drink, then that's okay. But if we decide not to take alcohol or drugs of any kind, then we can decide to follow that more strictly. And likewise, the fifth one, which is not to indulge in sexual misconduct. So, as a monk or nun, you would take a vow of celibacy, and as a layperson, you could take a vow of celibacy if you want to. You can do that, but here we're talking about not indulging in sexual misconduct as a layperson. So that means not indulging in adultery, or with somebody else's wife or husband, or in the wrong place, like in a temple or something, or near a shrine. There's things like that it would be inappropriate and not good to do. So those are the 5 golden rules, which is good to follow if you can. So all of these things, we need to look into our hearts and decide if we can sincerely do our best with them. We just do the best we can, but we have to want to do our best, at least that. So we have to look into our hearts and we decide, is this the path that we want to take? Then, and if the answer is yes, then we're ready to take refuge. And if not, then we need to think about it some more, and maybe study some more, read more, go into it a bit deeper, whatever we need to do, and we decide definitively either yes we do or no we don't. But if we're still on the fence, then we still have to look into it a bit more. Either way, in this time of global pandemic, it's quite hard to take refuge right now because the lamas can't travel. For example, Lama Yeshe normally, our abbot, Lama Yeshe Rinpoche, he would come once a year and give a teaching here, and we'd have a puja maybe, and he would give refuge also. And sometimes people would go to Samyeling and take refuge at a different time of year, but usually he would come here once a year. But that's not happening. He's still away abroad in South Africa, and so that's on the red list of countries, so it's not possible. And not just Lama Yeshe, but Drupal Rinpoche and all the lamas, they're kind of stuck with the travel rules the same as everybody. And then the centres where they're going have to be open. There's many things that have to be right, and right now it's not that time. So the refuge ceremony is actually quite simple. It's not a big deal in the sense of very elaborate. It's a big deal for us in our hearts, and we can already do that in our hearts, so that when the right conditions arise and we are able to take refuge with the right Lama, everything has to be right. We're in the right place. We're sure. and we're prepared and we've put some effort in, and then it's going to be even more wonderful. So in the meantime, we can use our time well to study, practice, look into things, and meditate. Because when you meditate, then you really take it on board. Otherwise, it remains kind of in your head as like an intellectual thing. But when you contemplate things and test it for yourself, and then you sit and just meditate with it, then it kind of goes into your heart, and it becomes an experience, not just a knowledge, you know. I sometimes liken it to as if you have a menu and you're looking at all the different things on the menu and you're studying the menu. We say that, don't we? You study the menu and there's this to eat and that to eat and the other. And you think, oh yes, that might be nice. And you even test oh, well, I used to like that, so maybe that would be good. And you contemplate it a bit. But then if you don't eat anything, if you leave the restaurant at that point, you don't get the goodness from it. And so that's like if you're not meditating. The meditation is the eating part. It's really taking it into your person, the nourishment. Yeah, so that's really one. In fact, let's not just talk about meditation. I think I've done enough talking. I think we should maybe sit for a while and just have a little short meditation, because I seem to have taken up quite a bit of time just talking. So you might want to have a stretch first. Some of you are sitting on the floor, some of you are sitting on chairs. So when we meditate, you can sit on a chair, but your feet need to be on the floor, and you need to bring your bottom forward so you're not leaning on the back of the chair. So move your bottom forward on the chair a little bit, so you're not leaning on the back. Plant your feet shoulder width apart. You need to come forward more, because then your feet can be flat. You want to feel solidly planted. Are your feet flat? Yeah. The cushion's in front, so I can't see. Thank you. And then, place your feet directly under your knees, so you've got a good solid seat. And that's too wide, actually. You need to be like hip width apart. That's it. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, and maybe a little bit wider over there. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and so then whether you're on the floor or in a chair, one of the main things is to have a straight back, but not in a stiff way. I think it's good to think of as if you're growing. So, like where you're sitting, that's your base, but from the base of your spine and up through your spine, up through your neck, and up through your head. Good if you can keep your eyes open, Sarah, because I'm demonstrating. And then imagine that you had a thread coming from the base of your spine or out through the top of your head, and as if it was being lifted up, so you're almost like you're being suspended. And that way, all the vertebrae will be aligned one on top of another. So that you're not leaning this way or that way or forward or backwards. You're not stiff either. You just feel all your vertebrae in alignment through your whole spine, up through the neck, and then imagine the top of the head, or you can think of it like a tree growing up to the light. Yeah, I've got a cupola here, so you imagine the top of your head reaching up to the light. And then you can either have your hands resting on your legs, sort of near your knees if you wish, and you can try both these things, or you can have them in your lap. If they're in your lap, then the right one on top, and the thumb tips gently touching, but not stiffly, so not kind of pointy, just soft. As if you were holding a piece of paper between them or something like that. Yeah. And your elbows a little bit curved, just a little bit. If that's hard to do because of the arms on the chair, then you can put them like that. Otherwise, whichever you prefer. Okay, and then you look at yourself, don't worry about him. So you have to be everyone conscious of their own posture. Okay, and then just let the eyes rest, looking down, but not closed. So I want you to keep your eyes open, because if you close your eyes, you will get sleepy, you will get drowsy. And we don't want that to happen. We want to keep our eyes open. And I think if you just let them rest, you're not particularly looking at anything in particular, you're just focusing your attention more inwardly. So you just let the eyes rest, looking downwards, but with your attention more inward. And then forget about your eyes, just relax, keeping a good posture. Drop the chin slightly, so the back of the neck is long, only slightly. And just maintain awareness of your posture so you don't end up slumping or leaning. And then relax your belly so that when you breathe, your belly will move as well as your lungs and your diaphragm. So we'll just focus on the breath for a moment. Breathing normally, breathing through your nose into your lungs. Feel your lungs filling and your diaphragm and your belly expanding because you're breathing in, so you're filling your body with air, and then as you breathe out, everything slowly deflates as you let go of the stale air. So each in-breath you're taking in the fresh air and the fresh energy in your whole body, and as you let go of the stale air, and with it the stale energy and any tension, you let go on the out-breath. So we'll just focus on that for a little while. Let's count 10 breaths. So by 10 breaths I mean 1 in-breath and 1 out-breath. And by count I mean just inwardly, you don't need to say it out loud. So breathing in and out, we count that as 1, and then 10 more in your own time, no need to rush. And when you get to 10, just let go of the counting. But you can always use the awareness of your breath whenever you wish as a tool to just help your mind and body settle while sharpening your awareness, resting in awareness. Spacious and relaxed. We'll just rest in that for a little while. And whenever you start to have thoughts arising or a little bit distracted, instead of just thinking about any old thing, we can turn our mind to the meaning of taking refuge. What we've been talking about for this last hour or more, an hour and a half. So we can just think about the various things that we don't have to make much effort. You just, whatever comes up that's related to the meaning of taking refuge, you can contemplate it in no particular order, just however it occurs in your mind. Give it some thought, some contemplation. Or you could start with the very first topic of why we take refuge. If you wish, you can start with that. And then let go, relax. Let go of the thinking, the contemplation, just let your mind settle again. But maintaining awareness. Non-referential. Resting body and mind, fully present, in the present. Getting to know your mind as it is, when it's relaxed and undistracted by the usual busyness, when it's resting in the natural, spacious state. Okay. So that was quite a short period of meditation, but we have run over time, so but maybe enough to give you a little taste of always a good way to end your practice session with some meditation, preferably a bit longer than that. And also to you can alternate between resting and relaxing and just resting in awareness. And then when the mind starts to get busy, which is what it tends to do habitually, to focus it on the topic that you want to be exploring. In this case, the meaning of taking refuge. And you can go through all the stages of that and work with it. And then it becomes deep, not just something you've heard on one morning and that's it, but something that you really think about and you look for yourself. It has to suit you, has to fit you. Okay, so I hope it's been useful. I think now we should finish the session as we started it with the prayer, but this time we'll say the dedication prayer. So our session is good at the beginning, in the middle and the end. So if we say it in English first, it's the one at the bottom of the page. Through the wholesomeness of this practice, may all the mental defilements be overcome, and may all beings be liberated from the ocean of samsara, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And then we can say it chant it in the Tibetan phonetics. O sanam de tamche zikpani, topne ne pe dranam pamchene, jegana chi balabdruk pai, si pe sole doa doa shon. Okay. So I hope this session has been useful for you and given you a little bit of insight into the meaning of refuge, at least enough for you to be able to go into it yourself a bit more and feel sure of what you want to do. Feel fully committed, or not, as the case may be, but hopefully you will feel fully committed, and then when it becomes possible, you'll be ready to roll. Okay, so and thank you also for coming, and for all our friends online. Thank you for attending, and yes, I hope everything goes well, and the right conditions happen soon, that we can find a teacher, a lama, and take refuge accordingly with Buddha, Dharma, Sangha.